Thank you very much, David. So there's been a heap of questions, and I can go through some of them and direct them to Joseph, David, and Spencer. So the first one from Omran was, is there a list of challenges you face and innovators can look at and develop solutions, ideas for? And Joseph, I think that was in response to your presentation.
Yeah, I put a little response out there. We don't have a list of sort of innovation areas because they just come from all areas, all challenges on the front line. So we don't really have anything pending. If there's something, we try to act on it. So again, by acting, I mean trying to pair up either people from inside the organisation that can assist, or potentially some external party such as Spencer who can assist us that way as well. So we don't have a list, but we're open to creating a matching up service.
And do the ideas people, innovators, get any financial reward?
Yes, they do. It's a very good package here for the inventors. If you get a patent, for example, and that is successful and sold, then the innovator themselves will be registered as the inventor, although the IP is held by UHCW, but the financial returns are very lucrative depending on how much money you make, if you know what I mean. But it's a good package compared to other trusts.
Excellent. Question for Spencer. Spencer, does your game incorporate cultural differences in presentation for ethnic minorities, for example? And maybe if I can add to that, what about, I know you got images, is there a chance to incorporate sounds like voices as well in the game? You're on mute.
Complicated, isn't it, technology? So yeah, cultural diversity, absolutely. There's nothing we can't put into a game. So for instance, we have a mentor character in the game that I showed you, and there's a brilliant plot twist, and only people that subscribe to the game are going to find that out. But there's a character who has to be a matron, I think is the role, and that person has to be a Filipino background because that's the majority in that hospital. So we can represent anything and obviously want to, and it has to be realistic. So we've even had in-depth conversations with script writers about how much we're allowed to put swearing in the game to make it realistic. So diversity in all of its wonderful shapes and forms. Yes, and yeah, we also built a game last year for the Canadian Institute for the Blind. So that had to be playable on a mobile phone for people with absolutely zero light perception. So it's all doable. So absolutely, screen readers, font resizers, screen resizers, vocal cues, haptics, for physical feedback. It's all doable nowadays, and improving, I would say, as people like Apple improve their access packs. So it's a long, yeah.
Can I just add to that it was my question. Different ethnic minority groups present in different ways in terms of demonstrating or indicating that they have mental health problems. And that's a particular issue for South Asians who might talk about heart problems. GPs have been trained in this. Also for African Caribbeans who again may be misdiagnosed with certain mental health conditions. So I just wondered whether that element is built in, because there's a lot of evidence to show that that is handled badly by the NHS.
I don't know how much we've done that. Is it Ala? Is it Ala? We're working with the NHS and with the mental health first aid team to advise us. So what we pride ourselves on is almost complete ignorance at Totem. And what that sort of means is we're content agnostic. So we make things into brilliant games and then we lean on you guys and girls to give us the content. How much we've reflected those aspects, I'd say probably not entirely. We also have to bound the game because there's scenarios, that go on forever. So we have to sort of play a bit of a statistical distribution game as well, so you can produce a product. But I'd certainly be interested in your view once we've completed the prototype as to think if it's appropriate or good enough.
There is a national group, Ethnic Health, that if you contact me when it's ready, it can be circulated and they can have a look at it for you.
Will do. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah.
Perfect. And so I think a comment from Patty, who said it was a lovely idea. She's doing work in LD and autism and thinks that this approach will be brilliant to raise awareness and understanding. So I don't know if you want to add anything extra to that, Paddy. If not, moving on to Paul Gretton, who's asked, I think, a question for David. Is David, what universities are signed up to the health technology cluster so far, and how do companies see what they offer?
Okay, thanks for that one. So in terms of signed up, I mean, nobody signed up yet. I'm in the year of developing the business plan, but I've spoken to 8 universities in the region personally, and got good support from all 8. So I'd certainly be very disappointed if they didn't all agree to be members of the cluster. And I think some of them are going to be interested in being those strategic partners because of what they bring and what they can add to the value of the cluster. So at the moment, relations are superb with all of the universities, and I think they're all going to be on board with the cluster.
And a couple of more questions before we open it up to the floor. Alla did ask around innovation, saying innovation is relatively easy. What about evaluation? How are SMEs helped with designing this? And so that one's to think about. And another one from Omran is, how do you identify your ideal business support partners, those who provide business advice, investors, business training, etc.?
Okay, so yes, on that first question, I'm going to have to think about that one. That's a good question that I need to give some thought to. On the second one about the ideal business partners, we won't have favourite friends that we'll be recommended to people. We won't have dodgy deals about who we recommend. What we will do is we'll have a proper function for intelligence and surveillance. After all, how can we be signposters if we don't know what's available? And we will be guided in what we do in terms of providing lists of people who are capable of offering a particular service to our members. We'll have regard to our own ethical framework, and we do our own due diligence on the people who are on that list. We will, of course, over time, develop skill and knowledge of our own that will make us appreciate which provider of a service is probably most suited to the business that's asking us for the advice. And as we get better at that, I'm sure we'll be able to help in that way. But certainly, we'll always want to be on top of what's going on in the market, who's available, and what their strengths are, in order to be able to advise our members accurately.
Can I just add like quick points into that? Because you mentioned universities as well. When we started at Birmingham Enterprise Community, we reach all university. Well, just like being honest, universities, they do support in kind, they are happy to help, but at the end of the day, if you don't show them what they are getting back from it, either in financial terms or in numbers that, okay, this is what you are getting in return, it's going to be really hard to make deals with them. And the same concept with businesses, because you mentioned the in-kind support of that, let's say a partner managing a theme for 10K, providing that in kind. It's a great idea, and you need that partner to be specified in a theme. But again, they will look, because you said it's a business-driven thing, the success of it. So they need to say, okay, what is the return for me out of that support I'm providing? Happy to help, but what is it in for me? Again, in numbers.
Yeah, I think that's really good what you just said, Omran. I mean, A, for your support for some of the things I've said. It's obviously that you endorse those, so thank you for that. And the other thing is, I agree that universities are very business-minded, just like businesses are. And in the conversations I've had with everybody, it's been, what do I get out of handing over this money to you? It's been most intense with the smallest companies because they can least afford to hand over any money. But everybody says, what's my return on investment for doing this with you? And an important part of what we do going forward is reporting back to our members on what the benefits have been to them of handing over their money to us. So kind of ongoing monitoring, evaluating, and reporting back to people about how we're doing and what we've done, and what the benefits have been to both to the cluster members as a whole and to an individual organisation that joined us because they were hoping to get something out of it.
Fantastic. So I think now it's the opportunity for the floor to ask any questions. We've got lots of people that haven't raised any questions. The opportunity is yours. I can maybe start inviting people. Alex, Elizabeth, Sebastian, Joe, do you have any questions on the presentations or the material that you've seen so far? Waltz,
No, thanks.
go for it, Elizabeth. Thank you.
No, just to say they were very interesting and lots of useful information. I think lots of opportunities for the region as a whole. Thank you.
So what do people think about questions? I mean, yeah, very much interested, Spencer, in the gamification of that. And is it an easy to, I was thinking in the back of my mind, being able to record people's audio. And especially during lockdown, apps like House Party have been quite popular to help take away any mental strain and you know, improve people's mental health, having somebody to communicate with. What are the potential when it comes to gamification to be able to record the voices, the audio of loved ones in some sort of gamification setting?
Yeah, we're actually exploring the use of smart speakers as well, right? So actually with visual impairment in mind primarily, but you know, getting your Alexa activated game and those kind of things. Obviously you've got voice activated TVs and that kind of thing. So that's almost more from a functionality and access point of view, but recording people's voices again is easy. I mean, everything is easy nowadays, pretty much. I mean, sewing it into you know, a narrative and a game that's any good, that's where the skill comes in. But recording voice, it's pretty simple as long as you have a basic grasp of you know, of standardly available technology, I would say, and we'd hold your hand in that as well. So if we wanted to record voices that went into characters, we've been known to immortalize people in our games as well. People who, you know, if it means you give us some money and we'll put you in the game, then we'll do that. We're pretty shameless, to be honest. But yes, joking aside, I think putting voice into games is easy. It's doable.
Thank you, Alex Archibald, who's asked, is Spencer engaging with the Midlands mental health pilot program?
No, not yet. I didn't know about it until 4 seconds ago.
Okay. So if Alex, you can
From
share
London, by the way. Sorry, I should probably confess. I did used to go to Coventry, but you know, because I had to.
That's fine. Alex, if you share that, send me the details around that. I can share it with the group here as well. I think Paddy, you've got a question as well.
Well, it's just a comment really, and I think that last question sort of sums it up really. We have so many things going on, and actually there is no definitive map, and I think we would all be in a home for the bewildered if we attempted to produce a definitive map, because it constantly changes, and it's got all sorts of things like postcode lottery and all the rest in there. And the question that came up earlier about how we find out what people are doing, I think it's very much contingent on the people who work in the cluster and the relationships they have with these intermediaries. So what's interesting is when we started these roadshows, I think we had 7 people on the first one. We have, what did you say, 29 or something signed up for today and 18 on the call. I think that is the way we find out what's going on. And there is a very interesting question about the equality assurance side of things. You know, how do you decide who's a good provider, who's not, whether we go down an Amazon route or a TripAdvisor type thing. But actually, there is an awful lot of knowledge in this network already. The problem we have is that it's disconnected. And that, for me, is, and I've been working on this for donkey's years, sadly, that is for me the difference that the cluster could make, because there's plenty of work there for us all to do. It's not in the business of competing or duplicating. Its job is connecting, and I think we've got a real momentum behind it now. I think finally we might make a cluster a reality here, and it would be a fantastic thing.
Thank you very much, Paddy. Some pertinent points there. Alex has put the link to the Midlands Engine Mental Health Productivity Pilot in the text so people can access that. I think we've got space for 1 or 2 last questions before we hand back to Joseph to summarise. Any more questions? Ala, Michelle, David Brand, you've been listening, and also Andrew Short. Catherine, do you have any questions you'd like to raise? Everybody feels well informed. Fantastic. If that's the case, Joseph, I'd like to hand back to yourself so that you can bring the meeting to a close and any concluding comments.
Lovely. Thank you, Harry. Well, luckily the Wi-Fi held fast for the whole meeting. I haven't been called away, so I got to see the whole meeting, which was great. Yeah, most of all, Rabbi, thank you for coordinating this and producing it. I think that's the most important thing. In all of these meetings I've done so far, the best advice I've been given by anyone is have someone else producing it. You can't direct, star, and produce. Some people probably can, but it's definitely worthwhile spreading the load, creating a cluster of skills, which I think is what this meeting needs to do. It's just getting the right people together to work together for success. I think that's evidence there. So yeah, Spencer and David, thank you very much. 2 different presentations, both talking about very pertinent things. Yeah, I think if we can all work together, there's, as Paddy said, you know, the knowledge, the skills, everything is out there. It's just getting the right people in the right room together and somehow find some money from somewhere, because unfortunately in the end money is the driver. So that's the final challenge.